All right, so I will wait till you get ready. Okay. All right, I call this meeting the Economic Development Commission to order on March 19th at 6 p.m. What we'll do is go around doing introductions, and then I'll thank you guys for coming in, and then ask you two very, very simple questions that you can fire me. So, start introductions.
John Cost, I'm Vice Chair of the Planning Commission and Liaison to the Economic Development Commission.
Lynn Stewart, Commissioner from District 2. Karen Pica, Commissioner from District 4.
Corey Rice, I'm a waterman. Spencer Hadley, waterman from Reedville.
Chip Williams, Waterman and District 5 Board of Supervisors, this member.
Maurice Johnson, Commissioner, District 5.
Dan Porter, Commissioner, District 1.
Melissa Buns Carter, Commissioner, District 3.
Drew Basie, Assistant County Administrator.
Bob Bullard, Executive Director.
So what we have been doing is having what we're calling discovery sessions for different organizations either at the state level or different businesses or citizens in the county. What we're trying to figure out, we're putting together a 2030 strategic plan, which it's only as good as the paper it's written on unless it's got some stuff in it that can actually help increase businesses and employment in the county. So that's our primary objectives. So what we wanted to talk with you guys about today, we wanted to hear from you all, was kind of, real simple. Like if you were going to start your business today, or if you had somebody that came to you and said that they wanted to start a business, what would you advise them? And if you were looking to expand your business so that you can make more money, what's impeding your progress to do that? So, and if there's other things that you want us to hear, please share, but out of respect for your time, we wanted to start with the one, if somebody came to you and said, hey, look, I want to be a waterman in Northumberland County, what would your answer be? What would you say to them?
Good luck, Mr. Gunn. The water business now has gotten so expensive to get into. If you're not already established into it, it's something very costly to come in from the ground up. At times it can be very lucrative, depends on how much time and effort and knowledge you put into it. But it is like, take Reedville for its instance, we've had 5 or 6 or more new crabbers come into the industry in the last 5 or 6 years. Something that it was kind of an older generation that was into it, and then as the older went out, we've had might be more than 5 or 6, but at least 5 or 6 new ones get into it last 5 or 6 years. But it is very costly.
Is it the equipment that's costly? When you say costly, what?
The equipment and the licenses, just a typical run-of-the-mill crab pot license, which is 255 pots right now, like mid-range, is between $15,000 and $20,000 just for the license.
And it's not guaranteed that that license is going to be available just because somebody wants one. There are some for sale.
Yeah.
On the MRC's website from time to time, but finding that license could also be a big obstacle for someone that's just trying to get in.
Everything that we're in that is, for the most part, that is very lucrative is limited entry fisheries. So you somewhat have to buy somebody out to get in. You can't just go and, hey, BMRC, I want to start crabbing.
And that's kind of what my question was going to be is, do you see the possibility that some of these high costs for licensure and everything is that you actually have to buy out somebody that's already doing it and therefore they're looking to get a chunk out of their sale?
VMRC has started an apprenticeship program. It's just come online within the last, say, 6 months, which is trying to get the younger generation a starting chance to get into the business, which is very helpful. I think you send in an application and they put it in front of a group like this and go through it and pick people out of it. That's a big help as far as younger generation trying to get in. But then that also limits you to the money you can make, because when they put you in it, it's a very, very small operation. But it also is a first step to it. But the licenses themselves, they don't make anymore. So what's out there right now, like Corey said, it's limited entry. That's all that is available. So you either have to be gifted one or buy one out from somebody.
And that's gonna come with a premium, just like buying a house, right?
Yes, sir. Especially after the last, when COVID hit, the prices, especially on crabs, were a lot higher than previous years. And then that also drove the price of the licenses and stuff up. And their gear, like, a crab pot, a lot of the fellows have crab pots coming out of Carolina now. By the time you get that crab pot rigged up, you've got $65, $70
$75 for
Yeah.
one.
for one crab pot.
And we all have 300-400 of those in the water at one time, so you've got $30,000 or $40,000 worth of gear in the water at one time.
And you wait to have the license though before you buy the gear, right? You
Yes,
don't-
ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because with the cost of that, okay.
The crab pot license, for example, they're 3 or 4 different sizes. There's an 85 pot license, a 255, a 425.
I think, yeah, it was a 200, yeah.
Do you finance the license or is it you have to have cash up front?
Pay for it.
You
Yeah,
have to
most,
pay for
yeah,
it?
no, I mean,
If Corey was gonna sell me his license, he's not gonna finance it to me, he's going.
Now, he can sell you that personally, you don't have to get it from VMRC.
Correct.
Once he buys it, we fill out a transfer form. I'd transfer it to Chip. He has to pay the licensing fee to VMRC every year to keep it.
Okay.
But, Mr. Johnson, when you were talking about the price, paying a premium, you look at a lot of these older guys that are getting out of it. Some of us are taking care of ourselves and trying to put a retirement together, but some of them, that's part of their retirement package, so to speak. When they're getting out of it, hey, I'm selling my license, I want $15,000 for it, because that's what I'm gonna try to put away on it.
Uh-huh.
So you're not gonna, I don't see those prices really coming down much as far as buying licenses to get into the business.
Can VMRC veto the transfer?
No, sir.
No? Okay.
if it's a legal transfer, which if there's no, violations on the
Probation.
license or anything, on the licensee, then they won't veto it.
Okay.
One of the reasons I asked to bring these two guys, I asked these two guys to come before you is because they are both involved with the management side of things also. Corey's on the CMAC committee, which is the Blue Crab Advisory Committee, and they're kind of comparable to the Planning Commission in the county, where they report to the higher authority, VMRC. They make suggestions or advisements to them. Spencer is on the VMRC commission. He was appointed by Governor Youngkin 2 years ago.
Yes, sir.
So he sits on the board down there in Hampton.
So he's a big,
Yeah, he's a big shot.
So just to
What is the renewal for your license once you have one?
All depends on what level you have. Like say a 255 is I think $79 a year. The
Okay.
425 is like
So the upfront
129.
cost is,
We all have a commercial registration card. We pay that fee at the beginning of the year, and then you pay per license depending on what fishery you're in. Every license costs a different, and every gear type costs different. Like we go oystering, we have to pay an oyster user fee, and then whether we use patent tongs, hand scrape, or drudge, we have to pay a fee for each one of those.
We also have to pay $190 a year just to call ourselves a waterman. It's a commercial registration license, and we can't buy any other licenses unless we buy that commercial registration license first.
so at the beginning of every season, what's your bill before you catch the first or,
Just in licensing, you mean?
yeah, licenses and renewals?
$1,500 right here.
Mine's about 3,000.
Before the first product
Before you
comes
say
over?
anything.
Yes, ma'am.
so before you can actually do anything, you also have to have all your hardware in place too.
Yes, sir.
So every year, and I would imagine it's a sliding scale because some years your equipment's in better condition from the year before than
It is.
sometimes. But like, give me a wide window. What's low and high for what it totally takes you to get going every season?
I, unlike Chip and Corey, are in a lot of different fisheries. I shrimp trawl in the ocean during the October through January. I had an experimental permit last year for Spanish mackerel fishing in the bay, which the net alone was $5,500 just for that. When I got into shrimping, it cost about $5,000 for the rig to set up for that. I would be conservative saying I spend $4,000 to $5,000 on gear just for crab potting every year. Could be more, like you said, on some years when there depends on different areas that you work, especially with galvanized pots. If you go way up rivers, they get ate up a whole lot faster than they do, say, in the bay. So sometimes that takes a toll on them. But it's costly to do it and continue to do it. But I mean, it can be very, very rewarding at times.
Can you talk
Yes.
about,
Yeah, that's my question.
Yeah,
If you had a great season and, you actually, netted a couple $100,000. It's well worth, the $6,000 that you spent.
It is.
It is.
Right.
It is.
can you talk,
Because we never know. I mean, because
Right.
it's seasonal work, so
Yes,
we
ma'am.
never know how it's going to go.
Yes, ma'am.
and the infrastructure in place for that, right? So you guys are getting the goods, sorry, I'm not exactly sure what the right, Chip, help me out here, what is the right?
It's good.
All right, you're getting the goods, okay? And then you have to get them somewhere for them to be sold and moved, right? So in order for you to make the money that makes it lucrative and earn a living, do you have all the rest of the infrastructure around? Is there anything that would help, would be better? We've had reports that said we should have cold storage in the county, that we should have this in the county. Like, do you have what you need to get it to the market where where it can become profitable? Are you stuck with your product? Talk to us a little bit about how, once you get it out of the water, what happens to it? Please.
Outside help would never, nobody would ever turn it around.
Right.
As far as like, advertising or just say like the county, if the county advertised, Northumberland County is one of the greatest places for fresh, Chesapeake Bay blue crabs. Like, how Maryland has their own brand, you're eating Maryland crabs. Virginia doesn't necessarily have that brand. Northumberland County could have that brand if they wanted, which would bring more people in the area after that certain product. And I don't know whether it would it would in the long run, if like the buyers are getting more money, they pay us more money for them.
But how do they get your stuff? Do you have to bring it to them in a refrigerator truck? Do you have to, like, how do you move your stuff? Because
We're on a daily time limit. During the year, we can only fish so many hours a day. Right now, it's 8 hours, I think. So our product comes fresh off the boat when we get done and goes straight to the buyer itself, like Chip is a buyer.
Okay, so the buyer's already lined up before you go out.
Corey
Okay,
is one of my harvesters, I
Okay.
guess we call it. And like today, he brought me his crab catch, and he brought it in the back of his truck. He's leaving from Windmill Point on the Rappahannock River. He crabs out of there, comes back in, puts his product in the back of the truck and brings it to me. This time of year, you talk about a refrigerated truck. This time of year, it's not necessary, but later in the years, if they were to do the same.
and what do you do with
Yeah.
it to move it?
So what percentage of what is landed in Northumberland County would you say stays in this county?
Not much.
Well, you got
Well, I mean, it's some,
with y'all picking and everything.
10%, well, if you can, yeah, if you
I'd say
count
maybe
picking.
5% is what, just guessing.
Yeah.
But I have people from, DC, Baltimore, Northern Virginia that come to me and pick up.
Oh, they come to you,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, yeah,
I
they are
don't-
lined up. I
don't
will
deliver.
hunt fish down all year long.
If you're on
And
the
they're
road,
lined up to come,
right,
and they're coming from the north with coolers about as long as this table. And they are coming and they're getting it. So that's why they say, okay, it's Baltimore blue crab, but it's really Reedville blue crab.
Okay.
But they're coming here to get the product, and then of course they take it back.
the ones you're talking about that are coming with coolers are not really the ones we're talking about, though. If you're on the road and you see these white box trucks with refrigeration units
Yes,
on them,
oh, yeah.
they're coming down and they're getting hundreds of bushels of crabs at a time to take back north somewhere.
Is there more demand than there is supply? Are there more buyers than you
Depends
guys?
on what time of year it is. This time of year, there's not enough supply, mainly because nobody's had crabs yet. The weather's starting to break and people are thinking, I need crabs. And the catch is probably a little lighter now than it will be later.
When the supply gets up, but does the demand still exceed supply when you get into the summer? Or into the
Demand, the
season?
supply usually exceeds demand, in the fall. We start to catch more crabs just because of the time of year. Kids have gone back to school, the weather's starting to turn the other way, it's starting to get cool, and that time of year, we have a lot more, supply of crabs than
And
we
what
have
do you do
demand.
with the excess if you have that
We,
situation?
we lower the price and we dump them on somebody. We're just at that point, and speaking just from my standpoint, sometimes I don't make anything. If I'm paying them at that point, $30 for a bushel of crabs, I'll sell them for 30 just to get rid of them at times. We've only got a few days shelf life, and they're coming tomorrow with crabs also, so you have to dump what you have today, even if you don't make anything.
Is there any way to boost the demand side so that you've got buyers coming from further distance, or is there just not enough, is it too far, or they just don't know about us?
I think that our product is pretty well shipped everywhere and all the time. There's just not any more demand. It's just a matter of who's lucky enough to have that sale on that day. And a lot of times that depends on what you're charging.
You mentioned about 5% stay here in the county. Are they restaurants or are they sold
Retail?
retail?
I would say it's mostly people like yourselves who will walk up to my business, call me and say, Chip, can I get a bushel of crabs on Friday? That type of thing. There are a couple of two picking houses, smaller picking houses in the county now.
You and Billy.
So we do cook some crabs and pick some crabs, and a lot of that is sold to restaurants, the crab meat is.
Can you freeze any of that?
You can, and in the fall, when crabs get really plentiful and cheap, we will freeze it to have it to sell through the winter.
Can I back up on an early comment about the license? The license y'all have is for Virginia waters, are you able to go in Maryland at all, it's Potomac, or is it any?
I got a Virginia license, a Maryland license, and a Potomac license.
Okay.
But to be honest with you, my Virginia crab pot license is the cheapest one I have. It cost me $190 for my commercial card and $127 for the crab pot license. In Maryland, it cost me $940 for my license. And Potomac River, it cost me $400 and something.
They're separate entities,
Yeah.
Potomac and Maryland, and they are limited entry as well as Virginia. Even if you live, say, on the Potomac, you can't just go and get a
I'm
crab
fairly
pot.
familiar with what that answer was gonna be, not the cost of everything, but I just wanted to make sure everybody
Right.
here and on the virtual world that picks this up realizes that just because you have a license for Virginia doesn't mean you can go
Yeah.
everywhere in the state you want.
So,
Well, we're so close to the Maryland line out of Reedville.
You have.
Yeah, I've had one for a long time, but I think I'm the only one in the area that does now.
I've never had one.
Used to be a couple at the Little River.
And you gentlemen, you do the harvesting, do you have more than one buyer?
I rely on Chip for the
Okay.
most part. That's
Kind of
where
frowned upon,
I would
really.
say 9.
Is it- okay.
A little bit, in our world, it's kind of frowned
It
upon when
is.
you say it.
Gotcha.
There are times when I can call somebody and say, hey, you need some crabs, and you can pay me a little bit more money than Chip, and I can make a little bit more for a day or two. But then when the supply becomes more than demand later in the fall, and those guys, they're smaller time, so to speak, they can say, hey, I can't help you out, and I go back to him. I may not be prioritized. I may
Yeah,
be
you
down
would-
to the bottom of the list.
You would be in
and-
good graces with me.
No,
I tell you to carry him on back to
Yeah.
that other fellow, gave $5 more dollars a month
Yeah,
earlier.
when he's just trading them off, pretty much to get rid of them, he's not gonna want 30 more bushels that day where he's not gonna make any money that he's gotta go through the hassle to get rid of because I, tried to make a little bit extra. In the long run, it's not gonna pay off.
so that's kind of self-limited as far as the market goes, isn't it?
What do you mean?
You got kind of a fixed number of buyers and it's close knit and for obvious reasons, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with the reality there. I mean, I would do the same. But is there, maybe it's more about getting farther reach. In other words, you wouldn't be buying more than you can afford to buy. On any given, you're not gonna.
More than-
Buying
More
more
than, I
than
don't
you
think
sell.
afford is the
More than
right
you-
word.
But logistically, more than you can handle.
But if all of you folks in this room are selling me crabs, I am obligated to take your crabs. You are my crabbers. And I'm obligated to take your crabs every day. And then it's on me to find a buyer. Generally speaking, I have those lined up before you come in. But there are times of the year when I don't, but it's all
Okay,
new to.
so he's like, you're like the broker.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
You're kind of like a broker then.
Yeah.
So Chip, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, how many watermen do you buy from on a given?
This
day?
time of year, so I probably got 3 or 4 that work on the Menhaden boats, so they're with that company during the summer months, 15, 18 guys right now, maybe.
I just want to make an observation real quick because Stowe Bear Seafood's in my district and I talk to Stuart very regularly and I just, the other commissioners here too. There is a symbiosis between those guys that he's really got more at risk than the guys working hard on the water because when he gets those crabs, the mortality rate on those crabs is his. I mean, he can lose hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars if those crabs die before he can get them moved. So, you know, that I talked to the guys that do the water, you know, that they're out there crabbing. He's like, I know a lot of them. Why don't you open up a crab stand yourself? And, you know, the answer is consistent. It's labor, it's time. They're already tired when they come off the water and they're going to end up with dead crabs sooner or later. So, you know, I think the free market and the symbiosis that you have between you as a retailer or wholesaler and the guys who are going out there and catch it, it does work. It works. The interesting and ironic comment that I'll make, and I'll be quiet, is that, you know, I'm retired from the fire department. A lot of friends from Northern Virginia that still visit me, and there is a constant theme that I hear. Why is there never a seafood place when you come into Callio and into the Northern Neck? And I mean, obviously, you guys know the answer to that is because of labor and fiscal realities. But it's, you know, if I had one wish for our county, you know, when you talk about promoting tourism and stuff like that, and you make a good analogy with Maryland, you know, about their brand and everything. I just think it would be wonderful if, I know this is going to sound like price fixing, but if you could get all the watermen, all the you guys are out there busting your ass every day, I see that every day, okay? Wouldn't want to do it. God bless you that you do. And all you guys that are retailers could get together and you know, through an association and try to develop a place. I mean, you could brand the Northern Neck as this place, come eat your crabs, you know, come to the Northern Neck Crab House. But I just always found that ironic that there's, you know, you just don't have it here.
I understand why you would think that, but realistically, the reason that it hasn't happened to this point is because it's not going to work. Wouldn't you guys also agree that we
Well,
are to?
They can come to like you and Billy down Fleeting Point. I don't think everybody understands how many crabs go through just 2 buyers in Reedville that go straight to retail for people around here. I bet you Chip has no less than 15 people 5 or 6 times a week just want crabs for supper. Like especially on the holidays, 4th of July, Memorial Day, Labor Day, they don't have hardly, especially on the male side, they don't have many to send up the road because they're selling them all right there at their places of business. Stuart, you were talking about Stuart Obie a while ago. He had a place in Callio right beside the grocery store. And it was open for a long time. But then, like so many people, say you move into my neighborhood, you see that I'm a waterman, you're gonna come ask me first before you go up the road to Stewart's.
Right.
And I'm gonna try to do my best I can for you.
Sure.
So many people live around little places like that, or they go to a neighbor's house, say, where'd you get those crabs? Call this fella.
Yeah.
So that helps us out big time, but then like if you went to put a business up somewhere or a co-op between the watermen to try to sell your own product, it would hurt in that way.
That's a good point.
Because we would say, okay, KC's might have a sign up there saying, hey,
Yes,
this is what I want, but I'm gonna call Chip first and say, hey, I'm coming down here, I'm gonna get your crabs.
Yep.
Cause it's gonna be cheaper,
It's a
you
really
know, to go
interesting
to
point.
Chip's.
But
than go
don't
to
you, and
KC.
I just want to challenge you on that point though, because I hear what you're saying, but on the flip side, if you were organized, couldn't you establish a stable price that didn't make it so hard for you guys?
Is that legal?
There is no stable price. Every price changes. It was the
On the
same,
season.
it was the same yesterday and today. There's no guarantee. As a matter of fact, I don't expect it to stay the same between now and Saturday.
How's that price?
So that's the one on the
How
middle
was it
where it
set?
says market price.
Right, market price, exactly.
But it's almost like, you know how they say a mechanic works on everybody's car but his own?
Right.
these reasons here is a fishing community has, his dad's probably got one of the best seafood restaurants you're gonna get here, and probably the only one.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it seems like, we're,
All right, guys, we're wandering.
Yes.
Get back there.
Yes, our prices
And-
were set. Uh,
It's a supply and demand thing.
Yeah, seasonal.
Okay,
It is, but like all the guys that I sell to, when the first thing they say when they get out of the truck, they've already come to Reedville, so I know that they're gonna take some product back, but the first thing they say is, what are we doing on the price today? They already know what the price is because they talk to everybody in the crab buying and selling world as to what the wholesale price for a bushel of crabs is. They just wanna hear me say it.
okay.
And I
It's not set by the state.
No, no,
No,
no.
no.
Now, you gentlemen, how long is the off season and what happens to your crew during that off season? Is there an off season?
Corey harvested oysters on Friday in the Rappahannock River. I went down there and put his oysters in my truck so that he could convert his boat over to crabbing that day. Sunday he had off, Saturday he had off. Sunday he put crab pots in the water.
We didn't get paid on Saturday, is what I would call that.
Right.
What-
Right.
I got a check for some sort of product all 52 weeks last year.
Yeah.
Is that the first time or is that?
No, that's,
Oh, it's good.
I mean, it's 48 to 52.
I don't think
a
what you do is typical of every waterman.
No, it's not. And back to what you said, I hate to get wandering again, like you talking about trying to get a place where we all work together.
Yeah.
That's not gonna work, for one thing, because of our effort. I put in a lot of effort, and I know Spencer puts in a lot of effort, and I know a lot of guys that do. And then I know some that they maybe don't need as much or whatever, but they don't put in the same, and they can set a price that, we can still make it off that. Well, I can't, because I have a full-time crew member, and I may have a lot more overhead where I can't do what I
That
need
makes
to do
sense.
on
makes
that
sense.
price,
Yeah.
where somebody else can.
You can't, but you wouldn't anyway, because you're just a hard worker by nature.
Well, that's true.
I grew up in a fruit area and it was the same thing. Co-ops just never worked with fruit farms. It was just different.
Right.
Your oysters, so you all have different water products. Is it the same for everything you talked about with the crabs? You buy all the stuff and then you find, like, you've got the suppliers, you're the broker, the same, is there the same, does the demand kind of equalize across the products, or do crabs have a higher demand, or is it seasonal, like the oysters or the
It's
fish or?
seasonal and it all comes back to availability.
Okay.
And it's not just availability in Reedville or the state of Virginia. Availability also has to take into account what North Carolina has going on, what Maryland has going on, Louisiana and North Carolina. All those come into play when we're all pushing crabs into the metropolises of Chicago, Columbus, DC, Philadelphia, New York, yeah.
Spencer, you mentioned that you experimented last year with shrimping and Spanish mackerel.
Spanish mackerel last year, yes,
Is
sir.
that something you intend to look into for this season as well? Was
Yes,
it
sir.
lucrative for you? Okay.
I'm not saying that it was real lucrative. I kind of did it in a downtime. I had taken my crab pots up and they were catching a few, so I bought a net to go try it. And then crabs picked back up, so I went back crabbing. But I've been doing the shrimp and the trawl for 4 or 5 years now, and that's been good. During the winter, I bring with this past year, I brought all my product back home and retailed it between Richmond and Tappahannock and Reedville and Kilmarnock.
Wow.
So,
Can we think about this a little bit more expansively, getting back to Karen's second question here, and that is, suppose we could get sufficient product that we could actually create a canning industry here. I'm just throwing it out, sort of high, way out there. So that we had a lot of pickers, we had canning capability, so we were actually producing now a branded product, made here, canned here, distributed by whatever means. What's wrong with that?
And you mean like pasteurized
Yeah.
crab meat?
Yeah.
one big
Where's your
problem,
labor?
you work
Okay,
for.
that's what I want to know.
That's why a lot of the oyster houses depend on the HB2 workers.
Yeah.
The crab picking plants used to depend strictly on HB2 workers. And the last,
I don't do
probably
less
10
than
years. They haven't been, been put in a different bracket, so they weren't guaranteed the workers.
Yeah, no, you have to.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not the payment for the visas, it's
No,
just
no, no, it's the
the
actual.
classes, yeah. And they haven't been able to get the workers to do it,
Okay.
which is in a sense, like Chip said, especially during September, October, November, the crabs are the cheapest and the fattest. Right now, they're the fattest and the most expensive. But during the fall, if you could pick and put the meat up and had sale for it, it would be no end to the people that you could have.
Maybe we should declare ourselves
Yes, ma'am.
to be a sanctuary county and have
Yeah,
government
that we
rabbits.
Spencer and I are involved in the Virginia Water Association pretty heavy. And there is something in the works to try to get the H-2B program for,
Seafood.
the seafood industry separated from the agricultural industry. A lot of these guys, landscape workers and stuff like that, we're trying to get our seafood industry into a separate category so they have a better chance of hitting in that lottery.
Does that require congressional action or?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it does, just like with the agricultural, not the landscaping stuff, but the
I
agricultural.
think there was a meeting up Lake Cowart's, a month ago, with Tim Kaine, and he's pushing to try to get it changed. I know, AJ Erskine works for, Lakey and Ronnie, and he's been up in legislature trying to get it moving.
Okay.
I'm not clear how that helps you.
Because it brings your workforce in.
By separating from the agricultural requirements, you're able to focus only on.
It's 4 or 5 different groups, A, B, C, and D. It might be E and F, I'm not sure. A is guaranteed to get their workers. B, I think stands a super high chance of getting their workers. And the further down the line, you're not guaranteed anything. It's a lottery system
Okay.
type deal.
What are we talking worker? Are we talking about migrant workers?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because there's not enough labor force here
No, no more.
willing to do it.
And it's also, they're skilled jobs. Might not sound like it when you talk about shucking oysters and picking
But
crabs.
they are.
Guys.
Yeah, they are.
You would starve to death if you tried to make a living doing it.
Oh, yeah, I feel that.
Yeah.
I got enough scars already. I'm done.
If it weren't for the migrant workers, the seafood industry would absolutely collapse.
Where do they live when they're here?
The people that bring them here have to provide housing for them. And most of the big guys, Lakey and Ronnie Bevins, Tommy Kellum, they have housing on site.
And they're required, correct me if I'm wrong, they're required to first advertise for
They are.
Yes,
citizen
ma'am.
workers.
Yes,
Absolutely.
ma'am.
And they never get the
No.
number of workers that they need, and when people do apply and are hired, they show up for 2 days and leave.
Yes,
They're
ma'am.
still-
Right?
That's
yeah.
correct.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So this isn't a matter of convenience, it's not a matter of trying to keep anyone from working, it's a matter of there is no workforce willing to actually
To
work
do the work, yes.
for,
I firmly believe all those guys that are bringing those people in would much rather have Americans that were
Locals, yeah.
equally skilled if they were available to them before they got the H-2B2 workers, but it's just not,
right.
it's not realistic.
And it's the same thing when you're saying that you've separated it out, because I know at Potomac Supply, they bring in, their workers as well. It's
Yeah.
totally different. And they're trying to get housing for them. I mean, they've stayed in hotels, everything.
We've talked about crabs and oysters, the big industries that are established in the region. And Spencer, with BMRC, I know that there's a lot of talk about the blue catfish invasion in the area. What would it take to develop a market in an industry there?
Processors.
It's 2 main issues with that.
That's a great question.
Too many issues, you said?
2 main issues. One is the farm raised catfish. They have to have, what is the inspector? That's got to be the one,
FDA.
the FDA inspector there when they
On
are
site when they're
on
processing.
site when they're processing. And it's a big expense, not just having him there, but
I think it's.
for all their permits and all. So they got to have him there to do it because all these farm raisers do not want to see us put a lot of blue catfish. Chip used to, he catfish pot for a little while, and I think it's potential to be some good money at times, but the processing side is what holds it up. I mean, we've done with the Marine Products Board through VMRC has been at the Boston Seafood Show and the one over in Madrid, Spain, the past 2 years. And they have people that, you know, they cook the catfish there and all these places they want it. But they say, all right, well, we need X amount of pounds guaranteed every week. So we don't have the labor to process it. The product is there, but we just don't have any way to get it processed.
Coming back to labor again.
Yes,
I think the Potomac River last year landed 3 million pounds of blue catfish.
30 million?
3 million.
3 million.
And it could have been much greater than that if the buyers were able to handle them.
It would have been a lot greater.
Yeah.
I forget what VMRC said catfish were landed. I know one man landed 400,000 pounds.
Where's it going? Because I don't see it on any menus here.
It's called something else.
No, I mean, catfish are, like, people are starting to put it on the menus, but it gets shipped out. Because most of the product itself, like, my father-in-law's a fish trapper, and if he catches blue catfish, it goes to Jessup, Maryland. So that it doesn't even stay in Virginia. George Trace is who I was trying to say. I forget where he sells to, Amory's or somebody, but they probably ship it out to a cutting house somewhere. That's the only thing as far as that would be an awesome thing to do, but you would have to get the processor. You would have the product. You just have to get the processor.
We have to have.
Is the one in the Matthews?
I was going to say, there's one company in Matthews who just got a federal grant for about probably 25% of what he needs to get the ball really rolling, but that was Subco, what is it? Seafarms.
All right. You have been super generous with your time, and we don't want to keep you guys longer than we promised. Is there anything else you wanted to add? Any last questions that we've got?
Anything you need from government or get government out of, other than get more labor?
We could get government out of a lot.
He was at the meeting with Tim Kaine, so we was at Tim Kaine.
Actually, I wasn't.
You wasn't?
No, I just know there was one.
I had one question regarding the shrimp, because I went down to, it used to be Shackelford Seafood in Guinea.
Yes, ma'am.
And-
Gilbert River Seafood.
Yes, and they had, the shrimp that came in, actually, Glenda had Shackelford had called, and they had the shrimp that was coming in, which I was a little surprised that it came in that close. Yeah, to me.
4 years ago, I caught 52,000 pounds in 2.5 months, right off of Virginia Beach.
Wow.
It's, we got a state where our license is for the Virginia waters, which stops at the 3 mile line. And we can work from Cape Henry Point down to the North Carolina line. And the next 2 years, it wasn't as good because shrimp are only a 1 year class. Seafood, they live 12 or 13 months and then it's a new crop. And then this year we could have caught boatloads, but we didn't have the wholesale market to sell them. So that's why I sold everything out to truck.
Tell me if this is true. About 3 months ago, I had an engineer that worked for Omega Seafood tell me firsthand, okay, that they are seeing varieties, including shrimp, of fish up here in the Potomac and, you know, the freshwater areas here that they have not seen before that are more, you know, North Carolina fish and stuff.
Shrimp have always been here. There's never been a fishery to try to see how many it was. I know even back like in the 80s and 90s, the fish trappers would catch them in the fish traps about the same amount that they catch nowadays. And the trawlers used to work offshore of Virginia Beach and all outside the 3 mile line for years and years catching shrimp. So I'm not, the amount of them might be different than it used to be, but we've always had them. I don't know of any other species.
He was saying there were several species of fish that were more living more southern that are now coming up here because of the.
I think that's probably true with speckled trout.
Yeah, I think
it was never unheard of us to catch a speckled trout, but now we actually fish it, and there are enough of them for us to fish.
And don't forget them good old sugar toes.
Yeah.
So, this kind of a nagging question here.
Yep.
The notion of overfishing, you can look it
Wait,
up.
are you going down tangent?
No.
Come on.
I'm just looking for, does it have an impact on your industry? Ever? No is a good answer.
No is my honest answer.
Very good.
In the Chesapeake Bay, unless you guys can point something out to me that I'm not aware of, I don't see where we are overfishing any species,
Okay.
including menhaden.
Like, I'm thinking about the weekenders that come down here and just catch them and throw them overboard dead.
So different question, you said you had a little shrimp, but you couldn't sell them.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it because they're competing with, like, is there not a market? Was there not a
There's
buyer?
We had a buyer up until last year. He retired the end of last year. So this year, there was no buyer in Virginia that would, we work out of Rudy Inlet.
I know, yeah.
And we go out before sun comes up and come back in about sundown. And we can't run up and down the road all the time. So we'd have to have a buyer come to the dock where we all tie up at. And we couldn't find that. We had a lady out of Carolina that came up for the first couple of weeks. And then she was getting enough product in North Carolina to satisfy her, so she stopped.
So Chip, I may want to follow up with you on that, because the idea that, is there a way to go out and hunt for buyers? Like so for example, if there's 4 or 5 of you that have this problem with the shrimp, you could make a killing on it. But there's nobody, like, how do you go about finding one? So I think that might be a question for the future, to see if there's anything that could be done to attract or find.
Right.
Now, if you're getting everything out of North Carolina, you get everything out, then that's a supply demand issue. If, however, there's no buyer, how do you attract one?
Maybe an Amazon for seafood. I mean, literally it comes down to that. That's the beauty of what Amazon did. They matched buyers and sellers. And you've got an issue here where you've got product and then no way to find the buyers in an unusually large, where you have more than you can handle, or where the people you're selling to have more than they can handle.
But in the case of those shrimp, you're still coming back to a labor issue. You have to be able to process them and get them to the point where they can be sold to the public.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in Virginia Beach, if you couldn't offload off Ruby Inn like that, you could just put a sign out there and it'd be.
A couple of the guys,
Yeah.
I'm the only one from up this area that does it. The rest of them are from right down in Virginia Beach. And they back their boats to the dock and have
That's
big
it,
signs up. They post
Yeah.
something on Facebook and there's
Sold
lines waiting
Yeah.
for them.
Yep.
But
Wow.
see, I don't mess with their market. I bring mine home.
Yeah, understood.
And how many pounds did you?
52,000.
4 years ago, it was 52,000.
But you could have done that well this past year. You just chose not to because.
Oh, more, probably. Yes. There was a huge supply or a huge amount of shrimp going down the coast. I did bring up like 20,000 pounds from October to almost Christmas.
Got all that money sitting there. Huh.
Have you ever used any grant programs, or do you think there's any grant programs that you could benefit from?
I have not.
I
I
have.
haven't understood it.
We do know people that have used them. Some of them use them on a regular basis. There is money there for certain projects, for certain types of, certain fisheries.
Last call.
Fascinating.
Fascinating.
Thank you all for having us and
Thank you.
giving us
Yes,
the voice tonight.
Thank you for doing what you
Thanks for your
do.
generosity.
And the only other question I had is, let's say, because Wade is gone, so with his license, well, the license that he had, who does that go to?
Technically, it would go to his daughter, but have they sold it?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are
sold his
sold.
boats, his license, everything that's gone.
Gotcha.
His own oyster shore, I think everything's been sold.
Yeah.
And I think the money went to benefit his daughter.
Okay.
Can the commission make a motion to have a product demonstration for the next meeting?
You're not bringing the freebies on.
Nice idea, though.
They don't, like he's been saying the whole time, the only problem that we have is labor. That's it. We have the people that would go out and try to catch the product and bring it in. But it's just the labor. Like,
I'm sorry.
Corey and I are very fortunate. The men that we've had working for us have been with us for 3, 4, 5 years. We're very fortunate of that. But a lot of watermen, they'll go through 2 or 3 people a year, just to get through the season.
What's the fair market rate for the labor?
Some of us pay by the day, some of us pay by the day with some type of little bonus at the end of the week if we've had a good week.
That's the way I set mine up.
So these are 1099 employees, basically.
Yes, sir.
So I guess what I'm trying to get my head wrapped around is, what would be an average per hour? I know you're not operating like that. Are these $15 an hour labor jobs, or?
No, it's,
I do by the day. Some days we might work 4 hours and some days we might work 12, but I do by the day.
Just like $100?
No more. My main guy makes $240 a day.
Wow.
You ever pick up any high school?
And still having a hard time finding people to do that?
The harvesting side is, like these guys said, is no problem. It's just what happens to the product after that that we need and those are not, those positions are not paid as nicely, I would say.
During the summertime, do you pick up any high school age kids?
you seen these high school kids?
Yeah.
They're,
Well said.
I think you were saying international kids you see on your own.
My son, college kids then, but yeah.
yeah,
they
there
do-
are
they
a
do
few,
pitch in.
but it doesn't seem to be, I mean, I'm 37 years old. When I was in high school, we go to all-star practice during the summertime, and before I was talking about how many crabs we caught during that day. I don't think there's a kid in Little League that does that anymore.
No.
It's just,
Yeah, and they're
it's
gonna-
not quite the same anymore as far as
And they're
high
not
school.
gonna move that early,
No, they're not.
They're on video games all night.
Question is being
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, we're paying too many people not to work.
Yes,
Amen.
indeed.
Any last words from our guests? Any last advice?
Thank you all for coming in.
Thank y'all.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you guys, thank you.
Best of luck for you guys.
Thank you.
I watch those guys every morning.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Seriously.
Thank you, ma'am.
But I'm telling you, the guys, when we say they cut out enough.
That's just
You're out of
hard.
outside, go back.
I wake up anywhere between 5 a.m. and 7.
Wow,
And
right.
during the right time of year, I'll have a cup of coffee sitting on my back
All
deck.
right,
You know,
all right, roll, we have quorum, agenda. Anyone have any changes they want to make to the agenda? Done. Discovery session, done. Meeting notes from the 24th. Any changes or additions? From the February meeting, not the 24th. All right, done. Oh, wait, I need a motion to adopt the minutes, please.
Motion to adopt as written.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, good. Minutes of the February meeting are adopted. All right, strategic planning. So for the meeting, we have narrowed it down. Thank you all for your responses. We have narrowed it down. There are absolutely only 4 days now that everyone can meet. And it looks like that those days are the 17th, the 22nd, the 23rd, and the 24th. So the 17th would actually be the day, I think, right after. Let me double check. We meet on the 16th. The 17th would be that Wednesday. Or we could, if you want to meet, we can meet that Wednesday, or it would be the following Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. And I'd like to leave here with the meeting date set. So round robin, Lynn, preference,
Is it, what month is this for?
April.
April, okay.
They're all weekdays, right?
They're all weekdays.
I'm fine with any date,
You're good with any?
any
Okay,
date. You still want to host it at the event center, right?
if you can.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure,
We
absolutely.
don't want to take money out of your pocket though.
No, we are always welcome and pleased to help this.
So my preference would be not the 17th, since we just have our meeting on the 16th, but I'm open to that if others. Lynn,
I'm open for any date.
Maurice?
I'm gonna help you out here and say, I like the 22nd.
And Melissa. You have the deciding.
I didn't have a problem with the 17th. I'll say the 22nd.
That's a
Yeah.
Monday.
Yeah. Is that a Monday? Yeah.
That's a
okay.
Tuesday. Yes, it's Monday, I'm sorry.
It's Monday.
Yeah.
Do you want to change your vote since you changed?
No, it's fine. Monday, 22nd is fine for me.
Well, I mean, if the 17th works better for you, Melissa, we can do it, because I think you've got this all.
Yeah.
22nd?
It's up to you all. It doesn't matter.
I'm good on 22nd, you're good on 22nd.
Okay.
All right, 22nd it is, April 22nd,
What time?
5 to 7.
And get the address from you later on, Neil.
And what I did last night was, I sent everyone the latest iteration of the plan, along with some, I guess, resource documents. So there will be some asks. I'm gonna try to get the questions together for you guys so that I can send them to you well in advance. You have time to think about them. The front part of that plan, which is still very much draft, it's not ready for any public view yet. I redid the analysis for the employment, et cetera. I think it's very interesting if you look at the tables. Those tables all come from the Census Bureau, either the American Community Survey or the actual census. And the shift in the work employees in the county is interesting. You know, we've had a 100% increase in information and a pretty significant decrease in other areas. Our biggest employer now is in the education/health arena. So that either means we have way too many people, because there are not a lot of health workers here. So the rest of it is education. So I think we really need to look at what we've been what the old strategic plan kind of said, and does it fit the profile of what the county work is? And, you know, based on what they've been talking about, I think that's some really good food for thought. So I'm going to ask some particular questions related to the strategic goals. So I think we have a lot of stuff from the last plan that we can recycle. I've taken quite a look at Lancaster 2035 plan, which frankly, there's some stuff in there that's a little bit, I'm not sure if it fits well with the work that we're trying to do. And then I know the Planning Commission, I'm going to put you on the spot here, John. I know that the comprehensive plan is under review. Does that have a timeline for completion? Like if we wanted to wait to complete our plan until that's done, is that feasible, or would we have to just do an addendum?
You're probably gonna have to wait a long time from what I understand. We haven't really started because our staff person said that he hasn't had time to do his part to get in.
And you gotta go through public, all right, so we'll move on. What we're gonna do then is try to make this, if we can, I think that our strategic plan kind of a living document. The action plan that we're gonna have at the end is gonna have actions for every year, but then I'd also like to be able to drop in something when we get to the point when the planning commission's done.
Yeah.
So we will, you know, make it, once the draft is available, we'll make it public. But I think the action plan is most intriguing because we may be able to get community residents and people from the state, some other people to help us out with some of the actions. So I do apologize, it took me a little bit longer than I wanted to get you guys that initial kind of revision of where we're thinking on that. So any and all input will be welcome on the 22nd. Okay, next thing. All right, now commissioners' corners. So now we'll just go around. Melissa, you get to go first.
Okay. I don't have anything.
You know, I always have something.
Yeah, but it better not be about the number of cars in the restaurant.
About what? About what? I didn't hear that.
The number of cars at the restaurant.
No, unfortunately. I reached out to Stuart O'Bear to see what the progress was on the seafood building that this young man was referencing that's being redone next to the dollar store in County. If you guys have ever came through there, it was a deplorable looking building, and then they were going balls to the wall, and then it just kind of plateaued off. And interestingly enough, consistency. Stuart tells me the big number one holdup is getting tradesmen in there to do it, to finish it up. So he's a victim of the same thing that these guys are, just a whole different bailiwick of things. But he is still moving forward with that, which would be a nice, you know, because Cali is kind of the gateway coming in here, so it'd be a nice thing to have there. Again, for just review, everybody, is going to be a high-end seafood deli meat sort of place. It won't be really an eat-in facility. It'll be more of a place that you can go and get higher-end meats and seafood. So that'll be good for us. The other thing, and again, I got to put the disclaimer out there because I am the owner of it. I value my reputation. I'm going to be very honest with you guys. You guys are where I did receive a permit thanks to a wonderful board of supervisors group that was there at the time to do a 138 site campground. When we did that application, I was just sharing this off the record with Maurice. Our preliminary budget was about $1.25 to $1.5 million to build out the infrastructure and build this thing in such a manner that it would be a destination for people to come to. After talking with a civil engineer and really getting a sharp pencil, We are basically the victim of the current economic status here. It's going to be closer to $3 million to do what we would want to do. So for that reason, as you know, I have made a corporate decision that we will be tapping the brakes on that. I'm not saying that it's not going to happen, but the recapitalization math just doesn't work under that scenario.
So they're not willing to, I'm sorry, they were gonna buy it from you.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, that was my confusion.
No, they were partners. I don't partner in anything that I'm not the 51%.
I got it. I missed, okay.
I like my decisions, because they turn out well. And I think this is a decision that will turn out well. So what I'm saying to the group is that, you know, I'm not saying that we're not going to pull the trigger on it. If things, of course, you know, drastically improve economically with the change in administration, then, you know, that's something that I'll look at. If not, I'll currently be looking at, and I just want you guys to know that I will be focusing on, you know, kind of preliminarily looking at alternatives to that would, you know, would be for housing. You know, the by right use of that property would be good for, you know, housing, you know, particularly, I think, senior housing, because if we can incorporate it around the trails and stuff that we did there. So that's what's going on. Other than that, Calio's like spring, it's budding back to life again. So all again, monthly, I try to talk to most of the merchants there, and they're seeing slow pickups. So
Is anything happening with that Tasty Freeze or Dairy Freeze thing that was?
no, that was purchased about a year ago by Miguel from Los Portales, and he has told me that he is planning on doing something with it. But again, this is speculation. I think a lot of these problems do stem from workforce and economics. And guys, as much as we all love this place and we want the best for our community, but there are some real fiscal realities. It's an upstream. It really is. So I think, for all of us, we don't give up, but I think we just continue to work towards a positive goal for everybody.
Yeah, on that particular note, I will steal the floor from you now.
Please.
My vacation rental is currently operating at about 30% of what it's done historically. This is the first year it's been this slow, ever.
Yep.
So the economy outside of Northumberland County isn't doing well.
Yep.
So I think of that as like the canary in the coal mine.
Yep.
It hasn't been doing well for 10 months though.
Excuse me?
The economy hasn't been doing well for a long time.
This is true, but there were certain things that happened, like COVID, that caused it to spike abnormally as well for a few years. And then you can go back farther than that and the economy was better.
If you'll yield me 30 seconds,
Yes, sir.
I think because you're right, you're 100% right. The best advice I ever heard was from a very wise man named Bob Burgess, who owned a grocery store in Callio, family did for 78 years. And he told me this in 2008, at that little blip that we had compared to what's coming. He told me that the Northern Neck is like a train. It is the absolute last to be affected by a recessionary period. That it's like that big train going. It's the last to show effects, and it's the last to recover. And I figure 78 years of economic experience is pretty sound. It's certainly something that I've taken to heart. It's a reality.
And we received an email regarding some of the, was it the Family Dollars that were closing?
The dollar, so Dollar Tree bought Family Dollar years ago. Family Dollar was not as well run. The stores were crowded, a whole bunch of stuff, whatever. So they were losing their tail on it. So it's the Dollar Tree Family Dollars that they're going to be closing in certain areas, and they're losing their lunch to Dollar General in rural areas. So I don't know what that means for the two that are just brand new in this area.
I do, and I can speak to that. I have a daughter who's an executive with Dollar. And you're absolutely right. That's exactly what these 1,000 stores that everybody read about. These are stores that were poor performing stores previously. They're stores that they just didn't want to fund anymore because they were in bad locations. But I was concerned as you were when I read it, so I said, well, are any of these in Northumberland County affected by this? She indicated to me that there's not, none of the ones in Northumberland County are affected by it.
Does that help?
Yeah.
Maurice, anything else?
That's it.
Nothing exciting going on in my district. I have no update. Okay, now we have Bud. You're up.
Yes, several items. With regard to the ARPA project status, no change to the budget expenditures. We're still on track for committing by the end of June.
How can we be on track if we haven't spent any more money now? We're March.
Well, we
We
still
only
have,
have 2 months left.
we still have the final permits that have been completed for the kayak.
I've been waiting to get those JPAs approved. They've been submitted. They're under review. And
Who submits those?
we did that through Joey Scott, the engineer who did the design,
That's in our county controls that? The permits come from whom? That's from.
VMRC, I'm sorry.
Ah, wow, okay.
Yeah, so that's who we're waiting on.
Well, can we remind them that we need to spend this money? Is that possible?
They were reminded when it was submitted, I believe, but I'll follow up with.
Sorry, I'm not gonna create
No,
more,
no,
I just don't want that money to go out the door. Okay,
Yeah. I was checking, Philip Morrison and zoning who works directly with Joey. Got an update today and that's where we are. We're waiting.
because we don't wanna go to the bottom of the list either if we keep nagging them.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
But that was one thing I was gonna touch on, but that, we go with that, take a look.
Additionally, the kayak brochure, I'll be speaking with, I don't have his name here. Next week, he did meet with his folks about the kayaking brochure. They do agree with all the updates where they're gonna put the QR code for us. So that's another expenditure that'll be coming rather quickly. I received from Billboards in draft images for the review for the advertisement. Advertisements was a kick out April 1st. That's when we're going to be publishing, doing ads in various gas stations and in local restaurants about Northumberland County for tourism. I'm also working, they gave us a bonus opportunity where they're going to give us an opportunity to write into a blog. So I'm working on some information to be able to provide that blog. I was hoping to get the information out to you this meeting, but I'll probably be able to show it to you before the 1st of April through emails, just to get that out to you for your awareness. I attended on video conference the Governor's Agricultural and Forestry Industry Development Fund grant opportunities, very informative. The bottom line is the fund campaign ends March 25th. There's a second campaign that goes in the fall of this year. So we're going to reach out to her and see and talk to the lady and say, when's the next campaign start? So we can start informing the different agricultural and communities like oystermen, watermen, to see if there's any grants that they'd be interested in competing for. I can share you some of that information as well too.
Yeah, that communication has to happen.
I met with, or I've been communicating by email through Lisa with a gentleman named Drew Gruber from the Civil War Trails. And he was inquiring about the Howland Chapel School. So we're in 35, it's either, on the Northumberland County property listing, it's 3560 Ninth Run Road, or it's also 3560 Courthouse Road. Anyway,
Well,
it's
they're
owned,
kind of the same, but yeah, I mean, it's that corner,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
right at the corner.
Yeah, it's that corner.
It's owned by the trustees of First Baptist Church. Bottom line is it's been identified as, it's got Civil War history to it. As he said, which was flown under the radar for far too long, and a story which travelers of African descent seem interested in. He'd like to work with the county to see how this could occur, where they could provide advertisement. We would have to pay to have a digital interpretive signage as part of the Civil War Trails.
Oh, interesting.
So I'm gonna
So we could
be-
become part of that trail.
That's correct.
Ooh,
So in order to do that, I'll get some more information. I'll have a conversation with them. We'll have to talk with the owners of the property and see if they'd be willing to do that as well too.
Bob, where is this property located?
3560 Ninth Run Road?
Yeah, it's my church.
it's right
Yeah,
across the
right
street
across
from
from
your
First
church.
Baptist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh, right on.
and I'm on the finance committee as well.
Good.
But that's not the church that owns it.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, it is?
It's
Oh,
listed
I
as
see,
trustees
okay.
of First
First
Baptist
Baptist
Church.
Church.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
Final point is I'm working on the advantages and disadvantages of having registration for businesses here. I've got a draft paper, just got to review it, and I'll kick that up to you guys as well too. Should have that done before the end of before the next meeting. That's all I have.
The last meeting, y'all had asked about a digitized zoning map on the website. I did some digging, and Stuart is working on developing a GIS version of the zoning map as his time allows, because he's got a little bit on his
Yeah,
plate.
we got some things happening.
Yeah, and he has, but he's had some issues on how to address like dual zone acreage and things like that, and we just will make sure that everything is accurate before we finalize and put it in the public eye. But I had updated Karen and Bob on that. I just wanted to update everybody else on where we stood on that, but that is something that is on the radar. We will continue to work towards. Yeah.
Anything else? Okay.
Can I ask Drew a question, just so I meet my obligation, many phone calls that I get about it every month? Is there anything new on the
We
dairy?
are still waiting to hear more from BMRC. They are working their way through all that process, and actually, we're trying to see, some other group had some funds that we're gonna see if we can qualify that to use.
I ambushed a VMRC cop down there, and they're telling me that it's all about the money, so.
Yeah,
Anything else?
that's it.
Okay. For new business one, I would like to mention that Robert is working with Luttrell at the county to get us a generic email inbox. I know I, for one, would like to have some business cards made with a generic box, because somehow my personal email has gotten out and it's getting even spread further. So I think as we go out and visit businesses, et cetera, it's probably, for consistency's purposes, good to have a single
I agree.
inbox where people can send questions and queries. Then the question is, how do we make sure it gets to where it's supposed to be and managed? And I think that's something that would have to fall on Bob's lap, unless I can get access to the county servers, which I'm not sure is possible since I'm not a county employee. But that way we have some longevity, plus there's one box where everything can go. The worry with having it be in people's personal emails is if that person leaves or gone or gets disappeared or whatever happens to them, you lose all that contact and all that information, so.
It's as easy as creating a forwarder.
Well, yeah, so he's working on that to see how we can manage that. That's all I had for new business. Does anyone else have new business?
Karen, it's really not new, it's just, I just wanted to follow up because it came up on our last meeting, and I think it's something that we really need to bird dog on, is the zoning, the overall zoning map for the county, because I think we all identified how important that's gonna be.
Yeah, Drew just gave an update on that.
I'm sorry, I didn't, what did they say again?
Stuart McKenzie in Building Zoning has been working on
Okay,
getting a digitized version of GIS, but he's got some issues with like split zone, dual zone parcels on how to address those, and
but he feels it can be done.
he's got a lot on his plate. It's just identifying all those things. We want to make sure everything's accurate before we go live.
I think I gotta ask this question since John's in the room representing the planning. So we have a zoning map that is today. And in looking at, I was there at the meeting when you guys were going over what goes where. And it struck me that it's really kind of a patchwork. There's no consistent areas where you've got multiple property owners in, let me back up. Dan earlier pointed out that Callio's the kind of the gateway into Northumberland County. And businesses and property development happens where traffic is. But you couldn't tell that if you're looking at our map. Right. And so that's the way our map is today. As part of our planning and our vision for a future, I have to believe that some of that zoning, we would want to at least have the vision to say, well, maybe these land uses might change along a corridor as opposed to staying the way they are now if we want to attract certain types of businesses and have them be in certain regions.
Especially where there's sewer infrastructure already.
Well, that's the issue, because we've only got 2 sewer systems in the entire county. And so that's the magnet for all of that stuff. Nothing's happening here in Eastville because there's no sewage.
Right.
So the trick is, you've got residential property relying on those sewers as well, some of it even on 360. And so at what point do people want to convert their, or does somebody want to convert property from R1 or R2 into an industrial or retail or some other business? And the issue is, what we've been reviewing, again, very superficially so far, is what's where and is anything wrong? We've looked at all of the different kinds of zoning we have, what kinds of businesses or things fall into each zone. We've got that all cleaned up. But the question is there demand to change anything? So that if we want to convert something to industrial or commercial in Cali or Reedville or wherever, that we prepare, but nobody's requesting it at this point.
Can I just, again, bird dog this, thank you very much, okay, this is very spontaneous.
It's a chicken and egg question.
No, it's not. This is a legitimate question, okay? And again, I've got a t-shirt for it. That golf course property, I've got one section of that property that is split zoned, meaning it can be used for either residential or business.
Mhm.
Now, the zoning, way before you, when it was done in Cali about 1 million years ago, okay, the property owners, to what you just said, were given a choice. Do you want to be B1 or do you want to be residential? Many of the homeowners, because it's a patchwork, just like you said, okay, opted, leave it as residents. I don't want to pay any higher taxes than I'm paying. Good choice for them. What I don't understand is, and Maurice brings the point up, where and this is applicable to Reedville too with the septic system down there. Why not take those zones that have sewer infrastructure, in Cali particularly, double their capacity due secondarily to a federal grant that was done? Why not take a magic marker in that area and by action of the zoning commission, make a recommendation to board of supervisors, make those all split zoned? It's split zoned. It's based on the use. You're using it for residential purposes, you use it for residential purposes. And here's why that's a good economic development driver. That's where you can get a business that comes in and says, well, this place is 10 acres behind the store is for sale, but, I really need a little bit more. Let me go over and talk to these people over here that's using it as a residence and do an assemblage. It has to be a by right.
So,
It has to be to attract a business person.
and the zoning needs to be flexible enough.
Yes.
That if somebody's got an idea and a location, because location,
Absolutely.
we need to be able to adapt so that we don't end up with somebody that tried and then looks somewhere else.
Because, and let me just make this point before I forget it, or I'll forget it, okay? That split zone parcel, okay, now by right, it's a 3 acre parcel. By right, because served by sewer, I put 6 houses there, okay, by right. Or, because under the B1 zoning, there is no setback, okay, there's 0 setback, okay? I could put any sort of commercial endeavor there that's there. And the only reason I haven't done anything with it is that because it makes perfect sense the way that is zoned. I mean, that is the one good thing that they did when they did the zoning. But I just feel that that's got to have a serious look, because I can tell you, having put all the patchworks together in the Callio area, right on 8th Street through there, it's the only way you're going to encourage any growth in the future. It's got to be split zoned. Got it by right.
Okay, we'll look at that. But again, I mean, you raised the point that we kind of skipped through there, and that is, chicken and egg thing. Right now, there's no demand. And so we're spending all this time listening to guys tell us, there's no labor here. So what business is going to come here anyway?
Right, but then you end up with a situation of nobody's asking, no demand.
You can't even market it.
But
You can't even market it.
True.
But I can't market
Right,
it.
so is nobody trying because it isn't already available, or that's the chicken and egg thing that I was talking about? It's
Perhaps.
if you had some, you would get more, but since you don't have any, you won't get any.
For any business that wants to set up in Callio, for example, that's my backyard, I know every inch of it, okay? The chances are, more than likely, okay, because no offense to the planning commission involved, it is secondary to an act of Congress to get you guys to rezone anything, okay? And I'm not saying is, it's
I've
under
been
process.
It's been up to 7 months, there's not been any requests. at
I'm
all.
sure, I'm sure. But what I'm saying is that if you split zone that entire area, you could go to, you can actually market, you can say, look, come to Reedville, come to Callio, business X, target that business. We're flexible. All the zoning in this area here is split zone. You know, come in and do an assemblage and do it. And frankly, this gets back to this thing with the meat processing plant, okay? I've spoken to Jimmy and different people about that. You know, there's a right place for that operation in this county. But the guy's done now. He's done. Because we haven't done our job to provide marketable, flexible, as you said, Maurice, zoning that is enticing for businesses. I'm not gonna say anymore. I'm just telling you, that's what needs to happen.
Yeah, there's, as you probably noticed, is, when you mentioned the meat packing thing, and there's been everything else you mentioned, you got a rental property, so every time somebody's proposing an Airbnb conditional use license, people just show up out of the woodwork to beat up the board of supervisors.
And that is quintessentially why it is important to do split zoning. So it's by right. There is no, I don't want this, no NIMBY. I don't like him,
Yeah.
so I don't want his Airbnb.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do that it won't affect me. I just don't like Maurice.
Well, and it takes a process that should be one meeting, if a meeting at all.
Right.
In many cases, it shouldn't even be a meeting. But you have to have the public hearing. Everybody goes home and we table it until next month so that we can approve it. And that's just kind of the funky system that we have. That's actually the way it works.
You're cynical, aren't you?
I'm observant.
Yes, you are.
I was back in 2012. I did the huge fight to make it by right.
All right, that is off topic. Are you guys done? I agree, the conversation.
Done.
All right, I agree. So you've taken the notes. No other new business? No other new business? All right, citizen engagement. We don't have any citizens around the table. So.
We're all citizens.
We're all immigrants.
Newcomers. We're not immigrants, we're newcomers.
Ultimately.
You guys are commissions.
Madam Chairman, I move we adjourn.
Yeah. All right, so we have a motion for adjournment?
I second.
Apparently not, yes.
No, I just want to just comment, I'm providing dinner for us on the meeting night, so just like we did last time, so it'll be easy food, chicken and wings and stuff.
Oh, that's very nice of you. All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Thank you, guys.
7:17?
Yes.
Nice. Very nice. Hour 17. Nice job.
All right, April 22nd. I better put that on the calendar.
We're coming from a reading.